This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. It was the province's deadliest bus crash. June 15th will mark 1 year since a crash near Carberry, Manitoba left 17 people dead and 8 others injured. Tonight, the CBC's Alana Cole brings you one woman's incredible story of survival and her long road to recovery, something her kids call a miracle.
My friend Steve walks in and he said, quite the accident. And I said, pardon me? He said, well, there's an accident, number 5 and 1 near Carberry. Apparently it was a bus from Dauphin. And I'm thinking, pardon me? He repeated that again. And then it hit me. And I said, I think my mom's on the bus.
So I called my sister Linda and I said, Linda, if you're driving, stop. There's something I have to tell you. HSC said, well, we do have a lady here and we don't know who she is. And I said, well, may I ask if that person is alive? And they said, so far, this lady is alive.
Did you sing with them?
Yeah, of course.
Of course you did.
And my toe is just a tapping.
For Josephine Stockotelny's family, time together is precious. The 86-year-old was among the 25 people heading to a casino when the bus they were on collided with a semi-trailer near Carberry. She doesn't remember seeing what happened.
I guess I was thrown out through the window, or I don't know how, or that side of the bus got damaged.
The crash left 17 people dead, 8 others injured.
And I was very sorry about all these people that died. And that's why I keep their picture handy and pray for them.
This was that evening, watching the news.
Dawn Stockotelny couldn't help thinking the worst as bits of information about what happened started trickling out.
The lady from the bus company phoned me and said, there's at least 10 people that apparently didn't make it. And I remember, just with the age of my mom being 85, I remember saying to her, I don't think our odds are very good right now.
For hours, Josephine's kids, Dawn, Mary Marzik, and Linda Thompson, waited to find out if she was alive. Then came hope when Linda spoke with someone at Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre.
They said, does she have any tattoos? And I said, no, my mom wouldn't have any tattoos, but she would have a gold chain and a cross. And with that information, they said, we think you should come here to HSC.
Josephine wasn't breathing on her own. She had a severe head injury, broken ribs, her pelvis was fractured. She had other injuries too. As doctors and nurses worked to help her heal, family slowly explained what she had lived through in small pieces every couple of days. Using whiteboards, giving her facts, introducing the names of victims, one person at a time.
The last person that we shared had passed away was the lady that she went on the trip with. She went on the trip with a girlfriend, and that was the name that we left for last.
She spent 2 months at HSC, getting stronger.
Yay! Baba, you're outside! Woo!
Josephine was eventually transferred to hospital in Dauphin, but needed rehab. Her daughter Linda says 3 months at Deer Lodge prepared her for a new way of life.
That accident, that's when I got bad. In fact, I couldn't walk at all, thanks to Deer Lodge. They had a lot of exercises and a place, a room to do stretching, and got me walking. And I really appreciated that. That was such a surprise.
Josephine's life is different now. She's in assisted living in Dauphin instead of her own home. A brain injury leaves her with memory issues.
I don't know why I'm alive, but in a way, I thank God that I still have my church and I have my family here, and I'm very thankful.
I think we are all pleasantly surprised at how amazing she's doing, and everybody's blown away. When you see my mom and she's happy and talking and enjoying life to the way she can now, it's a miracle.
RCMP has said dashcam videos showed the semi had the right of way. The investigation continues.
I question every day to myself, like what possibly could have happened. But in saying that, I knew the driver personally. We also know his family. And I'm a human being too. I make mistakes. And if he made a mistake, just total forgiveness from our family. It happens every day. It can happen to anybody.
The family wants to see safety improvements at that intersection. A year later, they remember the others on the bus that day.
We just are so sorry for everybody who don't have the opportunity to be here like my mom is.
The family is grateful for all the help they've received on this journey. The moments, big or small, are ones they treasure. Alana Cole, CBC News, Dauphin.
Defense lawyers for the man who confessed to killing 4 women called their first witness in his murder trial today. Jeremy Skibitsky has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. CBC's Cameron McLean reports.
Jeremy Skibitsky's defense team flew in an expert from the UK to be their key expert in arguing he's not criminally responsible. Dr. Shahom Das is a forensic psychiatrist. He told the court he has assessed people charged with violent offenses to determine if they have psychotic disorders like schizophrenia. He has interviewed Jeremy Skibitsky twice. That will be the focus of tomorrow's testimony. Today, Skibitsky's lawyers went over Dawes's credentials. During cross-examination, the Crown played videos from Dawes's YouTube channel, raising questions about his credibility, including in this video.
If you were going to commit a murder, one of the stupidest things you could do is confess it to somebody else for no reason, if it serves no purpose. But it actually happens more commonly than you would think.
Skibitsky has confessed to killing 4 women in a police interrogation video played in court, but he's pleaded not guilty, arguing he's not criminally responsible due to mental disorder. Crown played another video in which Dawes talks about how he thinks some experts show bias in court cases based on whether they were hired by the Crown or defense.
There are cowboy experts, and because they get money, they get fame, they get attention, like Dietz did, they become sort of mini celebrities in their own way. So they want to kind of keep that going, so they know that they'll get re-instructed, they get more cases if they lean a certain way.
The Crown talked about another video that has been removed from the channel. In it, Dawes explains ways people can fake a mental illness, and he admits to having been fooled at least twice. Chief Justice Glenn Joyal said the videos raised questions about Dawes's professionalism and credibility, but it did not disqualify him from testifying in the case. Dr. Dawes will be back in court to testify tomorrow. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
2 people were killed in a double homicide in Minnegojubi Anishinaabe First Nation early this morning. Chief Derek Nepenak says a shooting happened along a main road in the community north of Dauphin. Nepenak says the community went into lockdown until RCMP were able to catch the suspect. Police say a 19-year-old man has been arrested after barricading himself in a home and shooting at Mounties. Charges have yet to be laid. Nepenak says everyone in the community is affected as the victims are well known. He says crisis counselors will be at the school tomorrow.
Everyone here is impacted, because it happened in such a public space. We locked down the community businesses, we locked down the school, we called in extra supports for mental health and crisis response.
A 51-year-old man who was reported missing from Fisher River Cree Nation on Saturday has been found dead. RCMP say his body was found yesterday afternoon. Police are treating his death as a homicide. They say the victim appears to have been targeted and there's no ongoing threat to public safety. Winnipeg police are looking for a suspect after a woman walking home from a bus stop was pushed down and sexually assaulted in a South Winnipeg park. Police say it happened in Kirkbridge Park in the Richmond West neighborhood just after midnight Sunday. They say a woman in her 20s was walking home from a bus stop on Pembina Highway when she was pushed to the ground and sexually assaulted by the man, who then fled on a bike. The man is described as being about 5 feet 8 inches tall, wearing all black at the time and a medical mask on his face. Anyone with information or surveillance video in the area is asked to call investigators. Cabinet Minister Ian Bushy says he'll have a conversation with the Ethics Commissioner after the PC's questioned why his grocery store is still doing business with the government. For more, we're joined by the CBC's Ian Fraze live in our newsroom. So Ian, what's happening with the grocery store and what are they doing for the province?
Brittany, this is a contract to feed those battling wildfires in and around Hollow Water First Nation. The grocery store in the community is run by Ian Bushy. Now, this contract to help firefighters goes back years, but Bushy has only recently become a cabinet minister, and the PCs say it sounds like the NDP government is cutting deals for itself.
It is unacceptable that cabinet members are sliding $100,000 checks across the cabinet table to one another. Yet from this minister and this premier, there's an attitude that the rules are things that apply to other people.
Bushy says he's talked about his business before with the Ethics Commissioner to make sure he's doing everything right, but he says another conversation is needed.
Also seen it as providing a service too, so it's significant to be able to do that, but I've had a lengthy conversation with the Ethics Commissioner about our business and my disclosures, so I will have a follow-up with him on this specific instance.
Today is the last day of question period before the summer break, and the MLAs will be in the chamber late into this evening. So Ian, what can we expect?
Around 20 bills are getting final approval today. Here are some of the highlights. A new law to end the ban on growing recreational cannabis at home. Another will make it easier for police to seize the proceeds of crime. As well, Manitoba will ban protests near abortion clinics, and a new law will ban name changes for sex offenders. In other news today, the province is putting money toward the mobile overdose prevention site that Sunshine House has been running. They'll get more than $500,000 this year. Brittany.
All right, thanks so much. That's CBC's Ian Fraze live in the newsroom this evening. The Osborne Village Biz says the decision to close the Starbucks has prompted some positive changes. The coffee company confirms it's now permanently closed that location. Executive Director Zoe Gervais says concerns about safety and security has led to 2 new beat police officers being assigned to the village, and there's more money for the Sabe Peace Walkers.
Overall, having a little bit of press about that safety stuff, I think it's been a good thing for the neighborhood because, the more feet that we can have on the ground and the more that we can all gather together to find some solutions to these ongoing safety problems that we're seeing everywhere, the stronger we will be as a community.
Gervais hopes the changes will mean a local business will move into the former Starbucks site. The president of the University of Manitoba has publicly apologized to Indigenous communities for inappropriately acquiring and storing the remains and belongings of their ancestors. An apology ceremony was held at the university's Fort Garry campus in Winnipeg this afternoon. CBC's Zubina Ahmed has more.
The event was called a respectful rematriation and repatriation ceremony. Rematriation means returning Indigenous ancestral belongings that were taken or held without consent. University President Michael Benaroch stood before a crowd of Indigenous students, staff and community members to apologize for all the past wrongs done to them.
In ceremony, we reflected on the harm and indignity our university has historically caused and inflicted upon the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. And there was deep pain felt by all.
The apology was made to First Nations, Inuit and Métis descendant communities. Benaroch announced a new policy to ensure that offensive practices will never happen again. The policy was written by a group of Indigenous scholars, community representatives and other university members over the past 2 years. He says rematriation efforts under the new policy have begun through engagement with community leaders and elders. Benarod says the university is committed to earn the trust of Indigenous people by transforming as an institution. Grand Chief Garrison Settee of MKO, which represents Northern Manitoba First Nations, accepted the apology. He called this a start to the process of healing.
I celebrate the fact that we can stand here as Indigenous people and still hold our head up high in spite of all that has happened to us. This is a testament of who we are as a people. We are strong, we are resilient, and we are powerful nations to this day. You have never taken that from us, and you'll never take it from us.
Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Sunday's Pride Parade saw the largest attendance ever, according to organizers, though the festivities were dampened by an afternoon thunderstorm. There was a sea of every color of the rainbow as thousands joyfully moved through the streets of downtown Winnipeg for the annual parade. It began around 11 a.m. and traveled down Portage Avenue before ending near the Forks later in the afternoon. Earlier in the day, however, the parade was briefly held up by a group of protesters. They had a handful of demands for Pride Winnipeg organizers, among them searching the landfills, ending complicity with genocide, divesting from so-called corporate pinkwashing, and removing police from Pride.
Pride Winnipeg has not listened to community concerns for a number of years, and so this was action that we were forced to take to make Pride Winnipeg come to the table in a meaningful way.
Pride Winnipeg says it's committed to working with all areas of the community. Regular consultations will begin next week. We'll have more on the Pride celebrations a little later in the show. Well, except for that storm that we saw yesterday, it was a pretty nice weekend out. I can still see the sun shining outside our studios now. Ethan Williams is joining us now for a look at the forecast and what we can expect for the rest of the week. Ethan.
Well, thanks, Brittany, and hopefully you've dried off from the drenching that we got throughout southern Manitoba yesterday with those storms and showers that moved through. Trevor was at the game at Optimist Park in St. James Optimist Park, that is, in Winnipeg yesterday, and catching the rain falling very heavily heading toward the baseball field. You can see they're pretty nervous about that incoming rain to the field yesterday. City of Winnipeg weather stations reporting anywhere between about 17 and 45 millimeters of rain, depending on where you were. And there was also some pea to marble-sized hail in that as well. Kind of around the city, we had 25 to 35 millimeters. Gimli picking up over 25 as well. Same with Carman. If you were a little bit further west, places like Portage picking up only about 15 millimeters. But this now means that everyone has, well, almost everyone at least, over 150% of the normal precipitation that you see in the period from May 1st to June 2nd. So we're starting meteorological summer here on a pretty wet note. Now, things have changed, though, today. The clouds have cleared away for the most part. We've seen the sun come out. We are watching, though, our next weather maker, which is going to bring more rain our way from Saskatchewan and up from the States over the next couple of days. The warm front begins to move through overnight tonight, and by tomorrow morning, for your commute to work, we're already seeing rain through much of southern and central Manitoba, including in the Winnipeg area, and some spotty showers still by the afternoon. But then things begin to clear out as we head into early Wednesday morning as that rain moves off to the north. The cold front, though, from this could trigger some showers and storms as we get into Wednesday afternoon. It's also going to make things pretty windy as well. So for your day planner tomorrow in Winnipeg, again, we're starting the day with showers, likely some heavier pockets at times. Temperatures warm, though, as we begin, starting around 16 degrees. Winds a little bit breezy. Those will start to pick up as we head toward the noon hour. The rain should be tapering off a little bit by then, but still cloudy with some showers. South winds mean that we're still getting that nice warm southerly U.S. air moving up. So our temperature will be around 19 degrees despite that low pressure starting to move in. And then as we get into the afternoon around 4 o'clock, there could be a few more heavier showers in here. I think for the most part, we're going to avoid thunderstorms in the Winnipeg area. But as you can see, that wind still gusting to 40 at times. As we get into the evening, that's when we're going to start to see that clearing. But the winds from there are really going to start to pick up. I'll have a look at just how much rain, Brittany, we can expect from this system when we come back.
We'll keep an eye on that. Thanks, Ethan. The Israeli military has confirmed the deaths of 4 more hostages kidnapped by Hamas on October 7th. This announcement comes amid renewed calls for a ceasefire deal to be approved. Julia Chapman has the details from London.
Neither side has agreed to this proposal, but there have been positive sounds from Hamas, which is likely waiting for a clearer signal from Israel. Its war cabinet is far from unified when it comes to these proposals. The further right factions of the coalition saying that they will pull out if it goes forward. They don't want to see an end to the fighting until Hamas has been entirely eliminated. Now, US President Joe Biden has called this an Israeli proposal. Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, has also used that word, but he insists it doesn't tie his hands when it comes to seeing through Israel's objectives. He says he's still determined that Hamas will be destroyed as a precondition for any ceasefire. There are now diplomatic efforts going on behind the scenes to get this deal across the line. The US pushing it forward strongly, but it also has the backing of Canada, the United Kingdom, the European Union, and a number of Arab states. Now, President Joe Biden says that Hamas has been degraded severely so far in this war, that it isn't capable of carrying out another attack on the scale of those on October 7th. But officials in the US do acknowledge that it is still a viable threat to Israelis. Nevertheless, they have expressed optimism that they will be able to achieve this ceasefire agreement. And it comes as there is still intense fighting ongoing in Gaza. Palestinian news agencies reporting that on Monday there was shelling in Gaza City, killing at least 10 people, as well as attacks on Rafah as well as Khan Yunis, where 12 people were reportedly killed. UNRWA, the main UN aid agency for Palestinians, says that more than 1 million people have been displaced from Rafah so far, many of them not the first time. It's expressed dire warnings about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, and also most recently about the lack of drinking water, clean drinking water for people living there as temperatures rise in the area. So they are very clear that a ceasefire is necessary to safeguard lives in Gaza. Julia Chapman, CBC News, London.
Leaders of G7 nations released a joint statement on the proposed ceasefire in Gaza. It says they fully endorse the comprehensive ceasefire and hostage release deal for the Gaza war outlined by U.S. President Joe Biden. The group is calling on Hamas to accept it and urging countries with influence over Hamas to help make it happen. Jury selection began today in the trial of Hunter Biden in Delaware. The U.S. president's son is accused of lying to illegally buy a gun while he was addicted to drugs in 2018. He's pleaded not guilty. Richard Madden reports from Washington.
Hunter Biden making history this morning as the first child of a sitting U.S. president to be on trial facing criminal charges. Accompanying him, his wife Melissa, and his stepmother, First Lady Jill Biden. Hunter Biden faces criminal charges linked to a gun purchase he made 6 years ago, accused of lying about his drug use on a government form when he bought a gun. Now, the trial is expected to bring up some embarrassing details about his addiction to crack cocaine, his private life, including his past strained relationships. And the timing, of course, comes as his father, President Joe Biden, is locked in a heated re-election battle, and his opponents will likely use these details as fresh political ammunition during the campaign. Now, in a statement, President Biden said, "I don't and won't comment on pending federal cases, but as a dad, I have boundless love for my son." Now, this is a trial Hunter Biden tried to avoid, but his initial plea deal fell apart, which brings us to today. The child of a sitting president on trial while his father ramps up his re-election campaign. But Democrats say, just like the guilty verdict against the former president, they say they'll respect the ruling by the jury in Delaware.
I think the president himself will respect the verdict, much as, it is painful, I'm sure, to see one of your children on trial. But yes, Americans should accept when a jury reaches a verdict, they should accept the result. That is part of our democracy.
If convicted on all charges, Hunter Biden faces a maximum 25 years in prison. But his legal troubles aren't over. In September, he faces a separate federal criminal tax trial in California. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
Mexico has elected a new president, and for the first time in the country's history, voters have chosen a woman as their leader. Claudia Sheinbaum is the former mayor of Mexico City. She's also a climate scientist. Sheinbaum becomes the first person with a Jewish background to lead the overwhelmingly Catholic country. She's expected to continue the policies of the current president, expanding social programs for the poor. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he's looking forward to working with Mexico's new leader on climate change, international security, gender equality, and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. The Pride flag has been raised on Parliament Hill to mark the start of Pride Month. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, several MPs and senators gathered in front of Centre Block for the event earlier today. Trudeau condemned what he called rising hate against LGBTQ+ people. He also accused some politicians of trying to deny gender-affirming care to trans youth for narrow political gain. There was a sea of every color of the rainbow in downtown Winnipeg on Sunday as more than 6,000 people took part in the annual Pride Parade.
Pride is not just a parade. Pride is a march. It is a protest. It is a declaration of human rights and of civil rights.
So far today, the parade was the largest parade we've ever had. There were over 6,000 people partaking in the parade. We don't have the numbers or the footage as to who was watching the parade or the final numbers. The rally was the largest turnout we ever had. Some great, amazing speakers. Our grand marshals and our youth marshals gave such moving speeches.
Oh, it's super exciting. I mean, so positive, such a great celebration. And the message this year about transcend and support trans people, to see the largest turnout ever around that theme, I think it's super, super important that people are coming together to support trans people, but also the broader Pride movement.
I can see people being together as one, and then, the support they give to each other, just, try to understand. Yeah, people here are very lovely. They are lovely.
It's very important to have a representation because a lot of our people in the community, they don't believe that we should be exist, we should be like this, or we should change who we are. But little did they know that it's just the way we were born. We are a part of the natural creation.
Today we're having the Pride Parade. Happens every year. It's always the biggest and best part of Pride. It's so colorful and everyone has such good spirits. It's great.
I personally in middle school have experienced a lot of homophobia, so I feel like it's good to do these walks and these things to show that we're just people and not just like separated from everyone else. Like, we are still human beings, we are still living. Why should we get treated as anything different?
All right, let's see your pride, ladies and gentlemen. Come on.
I think identity is such a big part of people, and I think like our sexuality and how we present ourselves and just masculinity, femininity is so important to one's identity, and just being ourselves is to just show it out and be proud, I would say.
Ethan Williams joins us again with a look at weather. And is more rain expected, Ethan?
Well, thanks, Brittany. And as I mentioned tomorrow, I think by and large in Winnipeg, we should be avoiding the thunderstorms, but there is still a slight risk, a level 1 out of 4 risk for storms extending from southeastern sections of the province up into the Interlake and then through western sections of the north. And again, heavy rain going to be the primary threats here. We're not really looking for much hail or any tornado threat or anything like that. Speaking of the rain, I think a lot of us will be in generally the 10 to 20 millimeter range, maybe a little bit more than that in some heavier pockets as we get into tomorrow. And really through Wednesday and Thursday here, we are expecting some showers even into northwestern Ontario. You see some heavier amounts here. The higher amounts are dependent on kind of those thunderstorms and heavier pockets actually coming to fruition. So those may not happen. We'll keep an eye out for those. But as I mentioned, things are going to get a little bit breezy here as we head into tomorrow morning. Some gusts 50 to 60 in parts of the Inner Lake. For Winnipeg, those start picking up actually as we get into Wednesday is when we're going to start to see gusts 50 to 60 of our own. Very strong winds along the Hudson Bay coast Wednesday afternoon. Places like Churchill maybe in that 80 to 90 kilometer an hour range. Temperature-wise, over these next couple of days, as we see these unsettled conditions, we are looking kind of for that jet stream to be just to the south of us and our temperatures to be a bit cooler as well. But you see this ridge starting to build in, the jet stream right along this lime green here, basically, and that'll start moving our way later into the week and for the weekend, and we should hopefully start to see some warmer temperatures and maybe some clearing with that. In the meantime, though, going to be rainy at times through the evening tonight for southern Manitoba. Temperatures generally staying in those mid-teens. And then as you get into northern Manitoba, again, some showers beginning in western sections along Flin Flon and the Paw. Clearer the further south and east you go in the north tonight. And you notice those temperatures staying pretty warm for the most part in that range of 5 to 10 degrees. Then the rain starts to move in by 7 o'clock tomorrow. Western sections beginning to see that. Otherwise, mostly cloudy through the day. And as we get into the afternoon, temperatures here, a bit of a range, mostly into the mid-teens for the north. For southern Manitoba, here's how things will play out. By tomorrow morning, that rain already moving into the Red River Valley and into Winnipeg. As I mentioned, though, temperatures staying fairly warm as we start the day, but things not going to warm up all that much by noon hour. Still some showers in Winnipeg and southeastern regions before that begins to move out, and we could even see some clearing skies in Westman and through the Parkland region, but the winds going to start to pick up. I'll have a full look at your 7-day forecast, Brittany, coming up.
All right, thanks so much, Ethan. It's been 5 years since the National Inquiry delivered more than 200 recommendations aimed at protecting Indigenous women and girls from going missing or being murdered. Now, the former commissioners say there's been too little systemic change across the country. The final report of the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls contains 231 calls for justice. Diane Red Sky is an Indigenous community leader and activist and spoke with Faith Fundal earlier this afternoon.
I understand and join families in their frustration that not enough has been done. And I agree that 2 calls out of 231 calls for justice have been implemented. And I join in their frustration and agree that we need to be doing way more to address the calls for justice because the epidemic of violence is not getting any better. In fact, it's getting worse.
What's your sense of what of the recommendations you think are our priority, that you think ought to be a priority for the government to be implemented here in Manitoba?
Well, I think they're all a priority. 231 calls for justice are a priority. And what the MMIW Implementation Committee is strongly advocating for are 4 key things. And the first one is that all levels of government, so the federal government, the province, the city, as well as our treaty partners, that they collaborate with Indigenous women and girl organizations that are working in urban areas because the urban reality is very unique from outside of urban areas. So we also, and this is a large part of the work that Leah Gazan has been doing on Call to Justice 4.1. And that is to ensure that we are establishing a guaranteed annual livable income for all Canadians, but particularly for Indigenous women, girls, and 2S plus relatives. The third one is that we would like and believe that it's critically important for the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous People continue to monitor the implementation of the 231 calls for justice, because so many of them are related to the violation of human rights, and that is critically important that they continue to be involved.
What's your sense of whether it is continuing to do that right now?
Oh, I think it's a responsibility of the United Nations Special Rapporteur to continue to look at Canada and support Canada and play a role in encouraging the collaboration between the Indigenous-led organizations, the families, as well as with all levels of government.
And just to be clear, when you talk about that, the continuing part, you're not suggesting that they're not doing that right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
The fourth thing that you were talking about.
Yeah, and this is really just to make sure that we're looking at the 231 calls for justice as it relates to everybody being involved. So this is not just an Indigenous issue. It's not just a government, issue. It's not just a one sector issue. This is really going to take all Manitobans to be all hands on deck. And so we really want to build that community of allies, really want to build the community within our own community to really work together, create that common table, work in collaboration to create a safe society where Indigenous women and girls and gender diverse people are safe.
When you look at the fight to search the Prairie Green landfill, what do you think that says about where our province is when it comes to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls?
Well, I think that certainly the decision that the province has made to support the families and to support the search of the landfill is incredible. And the actions of the province of Manitoba in the last 6 months, or even a little longer, with this new government, really gives us hope. They've made some key decisions and key actions to put in a special representative for MMIW. They have also created some circles, and they have accepted a report, and they acknowledged the MMIW Implementation Committee as a place to go to for solutions. And so they've laid the groundwork to really give us a lot of hope in our province that we have the right people in the right place doing the right thing, so that we are working together to ensure that we're building a society and working towards a society that doesn't tolerate gender-based violence and has a way in which we are preventing it from happening, we are addressing it, while it's happening, and then we're really supporting people to rebuild their lives from violence.
Well, hopefully you can sport a jacket tomorrow that's as trendy as Steve's here. Thanks so much to Jacob for sending in this photo. And I think Steve has the right idea. Just sit on the couch tomorrow, because as you see in that hour-by-hour forecast, it's going to be a rainy one in Winnipeg. Could get up to 10 millimeters with that rain moving through tomorrow. Similar temperatures for Wednesday with the possibility of some thunderstorms. And as I say, going to get windy too. And then Thursday, some lingering showers here and there before things finally clearing out just in time for the weekend as our temperatures return to normal and those overnight lows start to improve as well. And hopefully, Brittany, we'll be seeing those winds die down a little bit as that sun starts to come out and those temperatures warm up.
Thanks so much, Ethan. Could do without all of that rain, though. June is Pride Month, and the Royal Albert Arms in Winnipeg's Exchange District was packed Friday night as people got to live out their prom dreams, with some even experiencing the event for the first time in their life. There was dance, drag, and live music, making for a night the attendees won't soon forget. Here's your Daily Lift.
So So tonight we're here at the Royal Albert Arms throwing an event called Pride Prom. It is a party essentially that mimics the prom traditions that many of us have in North America, that many queer people don't get to participate in fully in an authentic way. So we decided to throw this party to give everyone this chance during Pride to like relive their high school prom fantasies, come hear a band, dance the night away, and see some incredible drag because it's Pride.
I didn't take any pictures at my first prom because it wasn't something that I think was overly memorable. So to now have a second chance and that opportunity and to be with like-minded people and just like have those collections of those memories to look back on and look at everyone's outfits and just, I don't know, see the dream come to life. I get to dress whatever I want. I can show a little cheeky and I just ready to like rip up the dance floor.
It feels like it would be closing a chapter. Like we put this all together for that reason, because I choose and I want to create a space for all those queers and allies that did not get the chance to enjoy prom the way they wanted to do it, and now do it in their own terms and close their own chapter.
It's definitely way more fun than being in a tight, stuffy suit, and I can just like dance freely in a pretty little dress, but also just like feeling safer and just feeling being among community and among peers that understand you and love you and accept you for who you are, and party it up all night for Pride. Yeah.
It's not hard. It's actually really exciting and really empowering.
A wonderful end to the Pride Week. Have a wonderful night. That's all for us here. We'll see you back here again tomorrow.